Welcome to my faithful and flourishing Christian school channel. My name is Bernard Bull. I'm looking forward to continuing today. I want to talk to you about uh, what it means to be a distinct Christian school. And I will surely get into this over and over again in different ways. It's one of those that you can look at from lots of different angles over time, and it becomes helpful, becomes really important, actually. But a distinct Christian school is one that I think people downplay. And I'll describe it this way. I've talked about this in different videos as well. Uh, Oftentimes people feel so good about the mission of their Christian school. It's undeniably clear when you're a Christian school why you're there. You know that the gospel is important, and you know that God's word is important. You know the spiritual lives of young people are important. You know about mind, body, spirit, that it's a holistic education, and you're preparing young people not just for life here, but life eternal. And so there's a lot going on that can give you great confidence, and you feel like, all right, well, that's what's distinct about us. That's what differentiates us from everybody else. And that is absolutely true. And I hope and pray that it's true. And in fact, if that's not true, then a Christian school begins to lose its reason for existence. Why would anyone go to the Christian school and not one of the other options, or the public school option, or other things like that, if it doesn't do those fundamentally, distinctly Christian things that I just talked about, and others as well? Well, one thing that I would note, though, is that in my years and the decades of visiting and studying high impact schools of all kind, including Christian schools and especially Christian schools, is that while it is true that that your Christian mission should be your fundamental distinction, and that should show up, and it should reveal itself across your organization, that the really flourishing schools that I've seen, they also have taken some time to clarify something else about themselves. They've established a kind of philosophy for Christian education in their setting, in their community, in their school. A group of people have come together and come to an agreement about who they are and why they're there. It's not just hiring a bunch of people who are Christian and just let them be Christians in the community. It's actually a kind of coming together around some shared principles, some shared concepts, and actually doing those together. And what I hope and pray that all of them are sifted through and evaluated based upon merit, as their merit based upon the wisdom of God's word. But I will say that the high impact schools that I've seen, they have something distinct. They in the business world, you might talk about this as differentiation. That people who come into their school, they can say what's different about this school compared to others, and it's big enough and distinct enough and compelling enough that they remember it, and they talked about it, and they tell others about it, and they promote it. That everyone in the organization knows what's distinct. And you can find this in all sorts of different types of schools. I've seen this in classical schools. I've found this in schools that are more project-based and core knowledge schools. I've found this in schools that have different kinds of educational philosophies and approaches and educational methodologies that they highlight. I've seen Christian schools that are really intense and focused upon building deep, meaningful mentoring relationships with young people. That's a distinctive about how they do their education, and that every student is known by name, and they're invested in them in a really meaningful way. I've seen schools that have really embraced young people and families from different cultural backgrounds and different ethnicities, and they've created a distinctly Christian school that welcomes people whose first language in their family is something different than English. And they may have 10 or 15 or 20 different languages spoken in the homes of the young people, and that they've created a kind of distinctness in their school based upon serving that ethnically and linguistically diverse kind of kind of group of people. I've seen it in many different ways, but um, I've never really seen a school that I remember as faithful and flourishing, or a high impact school that wasn't able to articulate, here's what differentiates us. We're not just like every other Christian school you've seen. We're not like every other school you see in our community. There's something different. And it's not just what I think is distinct and compelling, but they've actually defined something that is distinct and compelling to the audiences that they're serving and to others. So much so that you could ask a young person in the school, a parent in the school, a board member, a teacher, a staff member, members of the supporting congregation or congregations, and you could find that the vast majority of people know that distinction, and they can speak about it with compelling clarity. And that is a worthwhile endeavor. So I'd encourage you to think about that. Even as we get started, I'll probably dive into that more in future episodes on this channel. But I encourage you to think about, what is that for your school and for your organization? And have you had those conversations? If you're a school leader, with your board or teachers in your school, do they know that? And what is, that's going to look different. That's going to look different for each school. Depends upon your setting, depends upon your community, the students that you're serving. There are a lot of factors that can play in to what leads to those distinctions, but they're really important to identify, because if you haven't identified your distinctions, you're just going to be floundering all over the place. It's like one of those restaurants that has 150 things on the menu. I don't know about you, but when I go to a restaurant, if I see like 25 items or less on the menu, I immediately have a higher, I have a higher view of the restaurant. I have this sense that, oh, this is probably going to be good. They've figured out what they're really good at, and they know how to do it well, and they're going to serve their best food to me. I'm not sure how many restaurants can serve 150 or 200 different meals really, really well. And so it becomes just kind of, well, it looks like it's all this great variety. It's really pretty vanilla. And pretty basic, and it doesn't go, it's not very deep or substantial, and it doesn't really shape the school in a way that reaches what I would call a high impact kind of school that's really memorable for people. Something to think about, something to consider, and that's all I have for you for this video.